Hi, everybody. Today I'm sitting down with Robert Downs. I'm talking shop with Robert Downs. How you doing today, Robert?
Great, great. How are you doing?
Good, good. Robert runs a podcast slash vodcast called Louisiana Saturday Night. And I've watched a couple of your episodes of your live shows. Most recently, the one you did a couple days ago that lasted almost 4 hours. So let's talk a little bit about that. So how did you get started into podcasting first?
It really started by me being a fan of just podcasts in general. My wife started listening to them way before I did, and she kind of got me into it. And I started listening to Bill Burr
Okay.
podcast that he does. He just gets on there. He has no direction. He just gets on there and basically rants about anything that's
Do you
bothering.
listen to the Monday morning podcast?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that's the
yes,
one I listen
exactly.
to also.
And he would bring Nia on, which is his wife,
Mhm.
and they would go back and forth. And that's like my favorite part when he brings her on, and they have the back and forth. I was like, well, I can do that. I think, me and my wife have the same kind of rapport with each other. Like I give her a hard time. She's not stupid, but just common sense sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it started. I said, well, we can do a podcast, and it started with the cheap Amazon mics and the cheap board. And as we got into doing it, we kind of fell off. You're like, you know what, we got to get back doing this again, but we got to get better equipment. So it gave me a chance to spend money, an excuse to buy new gadgets and toys. And
Yeah.
so like $4,000 later,
Wow.
we got it. We got it going pretty regular, and it's just fun. And like I told her, I said, I don't care if it ever gets popular. I said, we're not going to. It's not going to be rich. We're not going to be famous. I
Mhm.
said, it gives me an opportunity to sit down with you, and you have to talk to me. You have to spend time with me.
Well,
So
that's
you're
awesome.
trapped.
I think that that's awesome because normally people get into podcasting, they think they're gonna get rich real quick, they're gonna get famous, But I always tell everybody, listen, just podcast to have fun,
Yeah.
okay? And you've really brought it to another level where you legitimately like to spend time with your wife, so that's great.
And then in Louisiana, we drink. It's 1 o'clock here, and I'm drinking a beer, but it's my day off.
Oh
I have
wow.
nowhere to go, nothing to do,
Hmm.
but we incorporate that into it because that's just part of the culture down here is drinking, having a good time, friends, and so we drink, and then like you commented earlier, it 4 hours later, you're still going.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's good, sometimes it's terrible. The only people that find it funny are friends and family.
Hmm.
But like you said, I'm not going to get rich off of it. I'm not going to be famous. I do it because I have fun.
Exactly, and that's a great way to look at it. Just have a good time. You know, so how did you get into the vodcasting? Like, was that just something you just wanted to jump
It's just
into?
a natural progression. You buy the $500 Roadcaster, and it
Right.
does all this other extra cool stuff that you're kind of just wasting. So
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? We can do I'm like, I'm a tech guy. I can make all this work, So, like I said, it gives me an excuse to buy cool stuff. I bought a new iMac, a Stream Deck, the
Awesome.
pod mics, the nice arms to put the pod mics on, and the
Hmm.
lights. And I just got new cameras. We were using the built-in cameras on the computer and an iPhone. I
Okay.
was like, there's got to be something better. I got the little Logitech HD 1080p cameras. I don't even know what model it is, but they're nice, and it works. And so, I saw other people, they would video
Hmm.
their podcast.
Yeah.
And, some people are like, oh, don't do that. It's going to cannibalize your listens, on iTunes or what. I was like, I don't care
Yeah.
if they listen or watch it. I said, because I'm not, like we said earlier, I'm not trying to make money off of it. It's
Yeah.
just another element to make it fun and gives
Right.
people a different opportunity to watch it instead
That's
of
great.
listening to it.
That's great because I don't think I mean, in a sense, it does stop your audience from listening to your podcast if they're watching your show. But
Hmm.
at the same time, it's still content. It's still something you're putting out there, and those stats still count, like those views still count.
Yeah.
So it's great. You're
Well, that
expanding
and
your
you have
audience.
people. Yeah, exactly. That and you have people that are just going to listen to it, and then you have people that are going to prefer to watch it.
Yeah.
It is what it
Do you
is.
publish to YouTube?
We have a channel, but I don't. And it gives me. We use Ecamm,
Okay.
and so when you finish your live stream, it gives you an option to automatically upload it to YouTube if you want to do it, and it's all logged in. I can do it, but it just
Yeah.
when I hit the button, it just creeps along. Seems to take forever.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, if they want to watch it, they'll watch it on Facebook,
Okay.
you know. But we
That's
do
fine.
have a channel, but we don't put anything on it. So at least I
So
don't.
I want to read the official description of your show because I want people to know what it's about. So the official description of Louisiana Saturday Night is interviews and debates on a wide range of global issues and commentary mixed with lighthearted comedy and all-around funny shit. We don't take ourselves seriously, and neither should you. Not to mention alcohol is involved. So that's great. So some of the global issues, I was looking down the episode list, and you like your last episode that dropped yesterday. You talk about the Breonna Taylor shooting.
Yes.
You talk about Hurricane Laura in another episode. So do you ever get any backlash or anything negative, any comments from people because of the
No,
topics?
the people that aren't going to like what I'm talking about probably are not listening to my podcast anyway.
Okay.
Those politically leaning people,
Right.
um, because you look at society today, people only want to listen to. They want to hear the same ideas bounce back off of them, so they get themselves in their little echo chambers, and they don't care to expand um, and get any more knowledge than because they don't want to hear opposing ideas because they want their safe spaces and
Right.
and that's not what my show is about. If you're looking for a safe space and not to be offended, definitely do not listen to Louisiana Saturday Night
Well, I think
because
that
you're
that's why your
not going to
show
be
is so
there.
perfect because, you say what you want, you say what's on your mind, and that's just what podcasting is about, I think. It's your show. You can
Mhm.
do whatever you want and say whatever you want. And, there's really nobody to tell you no. How has I know you've been away because you and I talk personally aside from the show.
Right.
I know you've been away from your studio for a little while. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, I am in law enforcement. I've been a police officer oh my goodness, going on 25 years almost now.
Nice.
And so when the hurricane hit Louisiana, I work for an agency that works everywhere, we'll
Right.
say. I don't like to say who I work for because I don't want to get those two things,
Yeah.
involved with each other because I
That's
don't want my
understandable.
employer being like, oh, you're saying fuck on Facebook, you know?
Right. Right.
So I kind of, but needless to say, I got deployed down there and I was there for 2 months, I believe, on and off in those 2 months. I was home maybe a total of 4 days. And it wasn't 4 days altogether. It was like come home for a day, do what I had to do the next day, and then go back. So, I was away from being able to podcast because it's me and my wife.
Right.
And then she also has a show with her sister. And then me and my cousin have another show that we do. And I do everyone's editing, put everyone's stuff together and post. So no one could, well, they could record, but there was no one here to put it online or
Right.
edit it or do any of that stuff. So everything was pretty much put on hold until I could come home for a day, and if it was on a weekend, we could get everyone together, we'd get it done. Like one day, I came home and I did nothing but edit my wife's and sister's podcast the whole time I was here, and ran back to Lake Charles. So that's my life.
Well,
That's what I do.
everybody needs an editor and a producer, I think.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm all of those.
Right. Yeah.
My wife keeps saying, "I wanna learn how to edit," and it's not hard. I mean, I use, Hindenburg,
Okay.
editing software. I'm like, "But baby, you complain that you can't use the remote control to watch TV because you say my remote's too complicated. You really think you're gonna get on here and learn how to do all this? Like, come on."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, everybody starts somewhere, I guess, you know?
Yeah. Well,
uh,
I mean, I'll set her down and teach her, but I'll tell you, I guarantee it'll take a long time.
so do you guys actually sit down and strategize and plan out your episodes?
Well, my wife does.
Okay.
She is the planner. She is the one that wanted to discuss Breonna Taylor. So
Mhm.
she goes and she gets all the information, and I hear it for the first time when I hit record. She likes to have it planned out and wrote down. I like to just go with it. That's why she calls it the dumpster fire, because she said sometimes I'm like, yeah, sometimes it just spins off into whatever. I said, but that's how I like it. Because if I had to sit down and plan and write, it
Mhm.
wouldn't be fun to me. Then it would feel like a job
Yeah.
to me.
Right.
And I want it to be something that's just fun. So I
No, I
like to
get
just
that.
get on the mic, hit record, and go.
That's
But
good.
she does all the planning. Like if you listen to the last episode,
Mhm.
we started a thing where my wife is a big conspiracy nut.
Mhm.
I guess you'd call it. So
Yeah.
we started her own little segment now where she's going to have she can talk about whatever she wants to talk about, and we just got to go with it.
Nice.
So
That's fun.
yeah,
That's
it is.
fun.
And
You know?
sometimes we've got into some pretty good arguments. But in the end, it works out. We have fun with it. So, and
That's
then,
good.
we'll have friends over, have them on sometimes, or I'll just call someone like, "What are you doing? You're gonna be on the podcast. Here we go," and just roll with it. So
Nice.
that's usually how it works out.
And that's great. I mean, you know, if it works for you, then hey, why not? You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's always great to also introduce new segments into your show, like your wife's new segment. But
Yes.
y- you know, how has the quarantine affected you guys? Has it had a negative impact?
Us personally, not too much. Now, when it first kicked off, my wife, she works for a state agency also,
Mhm.
so they had her just work from home.
Okay.
Kind of hard for me to work from home.
Yeah.
It can be done. So I
Right.
was going to work just like normal.
Okay.
Because people still are gonna drink and drive and wreck and crash and steal and rob, and
Yeah.
so it has to be dealt with. Other than that, nothing really changed for us. I mean,
Mhm.
um, it's still pretty much life as usual. Only thing different now is the kids are going to school here at the house online.
Yeah, but a lot of podcasters have complained about how their listeners have gone down during the quarantine because really nobody's going to work. You know,
Mhm.
everybody was staying home, but that's why a lot of the podcasters moved over to vodcasting because you know they had to compensate for that in some way. But you didn't feel any effects like that where you felt you had to compensate.
I mean, the numbers went down a little. Um, I I mean, I say numbers like I have this massive audience. Um,
That's good. That's good.
I mean, we probably average 300 or so downloads per episode.
Hmm.
From what I understand, it's good.
Yeah, that's
Um,
pretty good. Yeah.
I'm not making any money on it, but it really I didn't s I saw a small difference, not much.
Mhm.
I know some boards I were reading were saying, there was a lot more people starting podcasts during this
Yeah.
because they didn't have anything else to do, and my wife was already worried about it. I'm like, "Look," I was like, "It does." I said, "There's enough for everyone." I said, some great if someone else wants to start a podcast, that's good. We'll welcome them in. You know,
Yeah.
if they're gonna listen to us, they're gonna listen to us. It doesn't matter what else is out there or what else is going on. Most of our episodes, I'd say average probably 3 hours or so.
Wow. Yeah. Right.
So, they're not listening to it all in one sitting anyway.
Well, let's see. I have your list of podcast episodes up here. So let's see. The last one was 3.5 hours. The one before that, 1 hour, hour and 43 minutes, hour and a half, hour and a half, hour and a half, 2 hours. So yeah, you do some, and then you have a half-hour episode, winging it too.
Yeah, some of those I actually started breaking up.
Right.
You know, some of the part ones and twos you see were actually one
Yeah.
whole podcast. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna break these up. And it's kind of long-winded. So,
That's great.
but they seem to do good either way, whether you
Yeah.
leave it long or leave it short. You know,
Right. Well,
some people like
judging.
a 30-minute one. Some like a long one.
Yeah.
So
I mean, judging by what you said your stats were at, per episode, I mean, that's pretty damn good, because you have longer episodes. Usually the long form episodes don't get as many downloads because, people have short attention spans. But,
right.
so
I guess if you can keep them entertained.
yeah. Yeah. And then you're obviously doing that. So,
Well, that's like, when y'all go live on your other podcast, the Basement Surge,
mhm.
I could watch y'all for hours, but y'all usually go sometimes 30 minutes, maybe an hour. I'm like, damn it, y'all just started. Why are we stopping? I could sit there and watch y'all all night going back and forth.
Yeah.
But that's just
That's just a change in the format. That's just every show goes through an evolution, I think, and, my other one, it's just, we're testing the waters on a shorter format. That's all. What do you think your favorite episode is that you have done? Do you have a favorite episode? There have been so many.
I don't know the name of it, but it's an episode it's me, my wife, a friend of mine named Damon Harris, and Hernandez.
Mhm.
And now myself, Hernandez, and Damon served together in the Marine Corps. Damon is African American, and Hernandez is Latin, Hispanic, what the PC term is. But we had them on, and we were discussing race because I love my sister-in-law, love her to death, but she's very liberal.
Okay.
And the podcast before that one, we were discussing white privilege. And we disagreed on almost everything. I said, well, you know what? She doesn't want to hear it from me, so I'm going to have on people of color, people
Right.
from different races, and let's see what they think. They're very conservative. They both voted for Donald Trump,
Right.
which a lot of people are like, whoa, black dude voted for Donald Trump.
Mhm.
A Hispanic guy voted for Donald Trump. But like my friend Damon said, he was called a Stevens. I don't know if you ever heard this term.
No.
But it refers to the character Steven in the Django Unchained, played by Samuel Jackson.
Mhm.
So basically, they were calling him a house, N-word,
Right.
because he voted for Trump, and it's those are things that I like to talk about, get people's, let everyone see that we're not all the same, and just because we disagree, don't mean we can't be civil towards each other, because we're
Absolutely.
all human,
Yeah.
we can disagree on things. That's fine.
So you
But
like
that's
the
one of my
hot button
favorite.
topics.
Yeah, I mean, I think they got to be discussed.
Right.
You got to.
Yeah.
You can't just ignore race relations in America today, I guess you could
So
say.
you said one of your family members is liberal. Then do they listen to your show? Do they give
Yes.
you any did they give you any crap about your show?
No, not at all. I mean, we poke each other back and forth, but
Yeah.
it's all in jest.
Okay. Good.
She's liberal. I'm conservative on some things, but you'd
Good.
be surprised. Like gay marriage, I'm fine. I
Mhm.
have gay friends. Gay
Mm.
people should better get married.
Right.
Abortion, I'm fine with abortion.
Mhm.
Um, I just don't want to pay for someone else's abortion. Things like that.
Right.
But I like guns, so I don't follow a party line. I vote for what I think is going to be best for me.
Yeah. And you voice that openly in your show,
Yeah,
obviously. Yeah.
yeah. You have to.
Yeah.
We tried in the beginning to stay away from it
Mhm.
because my wife was like, "Oh my, we're going to lose people. They're not going to want to listen." I said, "This is just. It's so exhausting
Mhm.
trying not to be yourself
Right.
on your own show."
Absolutely.
And yeah, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like if we lose people, well, then they wouldn't want to be listening to us anyway.
Right.
So I was like, I'm going to be myself, put myself out there, and let the chips fall where they may, because
And
there's an audience for it. everybody.
Sure. I mean, and I think your show is a great example of, you wanting to talk about anything you want. And, the listeners are still there. Your audience is still there. And that's amazing because, that shows other podcasters that, they can literally talk about anything they want. And it's awesome. It's awesome.
You got to. I mean, you gotta be able to voice freedom of speech. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And it's about opposing ideas. That's what freedom of speech is about.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we didn't have opposing ideas, if everybody thought the same, we wouldn't need free speech.
Right.
That's why free speech is important.
Yeah.
And here comes my dog over here. I know you can hear her ticky-tacking over.
Yeah, that's all right. So how does your wife like podcasting? Do you guys have a set night that you sit down and do the show and record?
Yes, we go live on Saturday nights. Usually it's every other Saturday because I work one weekend and then I'm off the next weekend.
Okay.
So usually it's every other Saturday. Now we've been trying to record like an hour or so during the week just to have something for that weekend we don't record. But the storm had messed that all up. We had gotten into a pretty good rhythm with that, but because of the hurricane, that kind of messed that whole regime up that we had going. But it's usually for sure every other Saturday night. And then she loves it. She started her own podcast with her sister, a true crime podcast, because for some reason, women love podcasts about killing your husband and TV shows about killing your husband.
Right.
I tell all my friends, I said, look, if anything ever happens to me, y'all need to look really hard at April.
Absolutely.
She's watching how to murder people and get away with it. She's doing research. But yeah, that's their podcast. They call it Southern Discomfort. And they concentrate on Southern murders or cryptids, which like Bigfoot type things. But we have those here too. Anything that's weird or crazy, they cover that on their podcast. And then after we started doing that, my cousin wanted to start because he comes on Louisiana Saturday Night all the time. He's a comedian. He's a stand-up comic.
Right.
And he's like, we ought to, because me and him are always talking about comic books and like y'all do video games and because that's some of the other things I'm into. So we started a podcast that it's guaranteed not to get you laid because it's all about comic books and video games and anything that's nerdy. So
I was very impressed with that intro that you had sent that I seen for the show.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we had those professionally done. I paid a little bit of money for those.
That's still great, man.
We sound like we're $1 million operation if you listen just the intros, but
fake it till you make it,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got to sound good. You can, just because you are nothing doesn't mean you have to act like you're nothing.
Yeah.
How they say, dress for the job you want, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So
are you and your wife one of those podcasters who are obsessed with their stats? Like you had mentioned a number before, but are you?
She is.
Yeah. Do you look every hour, like see how it's coming?
She does. Yeah. What are our downloads today? And I've got to go look and tell her. Me, I could care less. I would never go look if she didn't ask me.
Yeah.
Because I mean, what does that matter at the end of the day?
Right.
You'll know you're doing great when you get that phone call from Spotify and they want to give you Joe Rogan money.
Right.
That's not going to happen. Like I tell her, so stop worrying about it.
You never know. You never know.
Well, I mean, if it did, great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. But yeah, she's obsessed with the numbers.
Yeah.
It drives her crazy. She's like, oh my God, we only had this many downloads on talking about their podcast. They just started there. I'm like, April, y'all just started it.
Right.
It's like, don't you remember how ours was when we first started? No one was listening but your mom and my cousins.
Mm-hmm.
So just calm down. It'll get there.
How long have you been podcasting?
Well, like I said, we started up in 2018 and we kind of fell off, but we picked it up again in 2019 and been going steady since then. So I'd say almost a year, little over a year.
Nice.
We'll be going steady with this. Because we rebranded, we changed the name. It was called My Husband Knows Everything. because I do.
Right.
But we changed the name, kind of changed what we talked about, and made it more fun for us. Because I think in the beginning, maybe I was a little trying to conform and make it something that it wasn't going to be.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I'm like, you know what? I just want this is fun. This is my hobby.
Hmm.
I just want to have fun with it. You
Nice.
know.
Well, good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
But all right, Robert, we're reaching the end of the show, and I usually like to end the show with my guest giving one tip of advice to our audience on vodcasting. So, would you have one tip of advice?
On vodcasting, yes. I think this happens to everyone. You get self-conscious about seeing yourself on the camera. Don't
Right.
worry about it. Don't worry about it. You look just as silly as everyone else. So just go with it. Have fun. That if that, one piece of advice I could be would be just have fun with it. Just have fun.
Nice. Well said. Very well said. All right, everybody. That's it for today. Thank you, Robert, for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Appreciate the exposure.
Anytime. Robert runs a show called Louisiana Saturday Night. If you guys haven't listened to it, go listen to it. It's now on Apple Podcasts. It's available everywhere. Go listen. His wife puts out a show too, him and his cousin. Go subscribe to all of them. They put on a great show. Thanks for listening and watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.